affects kind of how we look at God and we know and we understand God. And I told you before, I love being out in the elements. I love being outside. I love camping because I love just being in the midst of nature, because you see God in the midst of nature in places you don't necessarily see Him when you're inside an office building somewhere. You see God in just the beauty of the thing, the smell of the earth, the opportunity just to be out with friends and see one another and learn more about each other and share and joke and have a good time. And I love being out in the midst of God's nature. And I'm so glad that you all chose to come out here and worship with us today. Came out here to spend some time with us today. And last night we told a Bible story about four guys that were kind of messed up, four lepers, and they went out and God had promised that there was going to be this great victory over the enemies. And all of a sudden, all those that were hungry and thirsty were no longer going to be hungry again. That food was going to be rampant in the streets, and everybody would be rejoicing. And the king and his servants did not believe him. And these four beggars at the gates of the city, these four lepers, sick as they could be, finally decided, well, we're going to die in the city because they're going to starve. We're going to die here at the gates because there's nothing for us. Let's just go to our enemies, and either our enemies will kill us fast, or they'll have mercy on us and feed us. And when they got there, the entire army had been driven away. And I told you that the Old Testament is a lot about people messing up, and then because they messed up, they reap the consequences of them turning away from God. They reap these negative things that come from it. Bad guys come, or sickness and disease comes, and it's only when the people turn back to God that they truly see. And that event where God delivers them, God sends this humongous blessing of food and deliverance from their enemies. That is actually the event that comes just after what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about what kind of led up to that place. The nation is really in a bad place. The nation of Israel, they're no longer just worshiping God, but they like to start worshiping other gods from other countries. And one of the big gods of that area was a god by the name of Baal. And it wasn't just a god Baal, but there were many Baals that people would worship. But Baal worship was huge. It was the biggest thing going on. They had torn down a lot of God's temples and built temples to Baal, or they would build them right next to each other in places that were holy and sacred to the people of God. If you remember, we talked about the city of Bethel. That was the place where Jacob wrestled with God. And he said, this is the house of God. Bethel means the house of God. And he set up a place to worship God there. They've set up temples to Baal there. They've set up temples to Baal all over the place. And because of that, God has stopped protecting the nation of Israel. And enemies have come in, and enemies are attacking. And there's a prophet in town. There's a prophet that's been ministering to the people. A prophet by the name of Elijah. And Elijah was this dynamic man of God that had no problems whatsoever telling people, this is what God wants you to do. This is what God wants you to be a part of. And Elijah came to the king. And Elijah had a conversation with the king. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. When he saw Elijah, Elijah said to him, Is that you troublemaker of Israel? You see, Asa, the king, is accusing Elijah of making problems for Israel. And Elijah responds, I have not made trouble for Israel, Elijah replied, but you and your father's family have. You have abandoned Yahweh's commands and have followed the Baals. Now summon the people from all over Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel, and bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent word throughout all Israel and assembled the prophets on Mount Carmel. And Elijah went before the people and said, how long will you waver between two opinions? If Yahweh is God, follow him. If Baal is God, follow him. I mean, that says it pretty clearly, isn't it? How long are you going to waver between two opinions? If Yahweh is God, follow him. If something else is God, then follow that. I mean, we look in our lives and we ask ourselves how many times, well, what is it that we are following? I mean, in New Testament times, we're told where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. Jesus wanted you to know. How do you know who your God is? Well, Jesus said simply, Let me see your schedule. Let me see your budget. Let's look through your schedule and budget, and let's see the things that are priorities. Where your treasure is. There's where your heart is. What you put your most effort into. What you put the most money into. What you put the most time into. What you put the most of your passions into. Where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. Where does your heart lie? And honestly, for Elijah at his time, the nation, the people around him, were putting their heart, their energy, their love, their devotion, their sacrifices, everything they were bringing, they were putting it towards the Baals. They weren't giving it to Yahweh. Have we ever done that in our lives? Ask ourselves, what becomes a priority in our lives? We talked about this before. I think that there's tons of stuff that God is cool with us doing. In fact, I think this is just what we've been talking about the last couple months. There's tons of stuff that God is cool with you doing. I mean, I do weird stuff. Y'all have been, I love going camping out. Some of y'all, this is something you do all the time. Camping, canoeing and hiking and working out, sweating. That's not big on my list all the time. I'd like to be inside in the air conditioner every once in a while. But that's a big thing. That's cool. Does God hate that? No. There's some people that like to read books all the time. I'm going to read every single book. My son this year, he finished reading all 7 of the Harry Potter books. Super proud of him. But I remember there was a day when if you read a Harry Potter book and you were in my church, not me as the pastor, but there were other people in my church, they were like, that kid's reading Harry Potter. It's about the devil. I'm like, I don't think it is. I read it, but it's Harry Potter. Like, it's okay. My kids are all reading it. We're watching the movie this weekend. You want to come over? Harry Potter. It's like, it's okay. Where there people say, hey, it's that a thing of God. My house, you can come over to my house, we play all kinds of games. We got games about zombies. We got games about robots that are trying to kill each other. We got games about futuristic space marines that are trying to kill futuristic lizard-like skeleton creatures all over the place. That's the stuff that we do in my house. That's the great stuff we do in my house. And once again, does God say, well, you can't play lizard-killing football games? You can't do that. What are you going to do? I believe, and we've talked about this, I believe that God has given us passions and joys. God's given us things that we can do that are able to be used, that He can use to be a part of His great ministry. Last game day we had complete stranger show that we're able to build relationships with. Hopefully be able to teach them and instruct them more about what God wants us to do. Campouts, we're seeing people that we have never seen at church before here with us worshiping. And saw people laughing and sharing with each other like we've never done before. Why? Because we're out in a fun place. We're out here together enjoying each other's company. We're learning more about each other. We're enjoying each other. At one point in time we're like, hey, remember how that time we were sitting in the chairs next to each other at church? Yeah, that was cool. Where it's a lot much better when we say, hey, remember that time when we watched you fall over in the canoe? I'm going to use that several times, Mike. Thanks. He's not paying attention. But, oh yeah, you did too.
Twice.
Yeah. All right, so
I fell over in the back in.
I burned my thumb for all of you that care, so that could be a bonding experience when I was doing the fire this morning. But hey, remember that time when we took all of our kids and we stuck them way up in trees and then we left them for dead? That was fun and hilarious stuff. And all of a sudden, we're no longer the people that say, yeah, remember that other time that we sat in a chair next to each other in church? And that time before that we did the same thing? Now it's times, hey, remember we abandoned our kids for lost. And good times. And all of a sudden, we're closer together. All of a sudden, we're doing more of what God wants us to do. We're building fellowship, which is in our name, All Things Fellowship. We talk a lot about the all and the things. The all is everybody, the things is what we do. You gotta always remember that fellowship part, that part where we grow closer together, or we grow closer to one another. And Elijah says the day is coming when you gotta make a choice. Are the things that you're doing being done to glorify God, or are the things that you're doing being done to bring happiness to you? The great thing about God is God often does stuff that brings joy to Him, that brings joy to us as well. You like camping out? You know what? We talked about it. There's a lot of people right now that are having to use these camping skills in order to help people survive from tornadoes and experiences they've had. We've used camping experience. I know Kevin and I, when we were in high school, we were a part of a camping team where we would go camping out with at-risk youth that didn't have moms and dads that would take them out to do cool stuff like this. Even if moms and dads complain because other things are going on, having a mom and dad that'll do that for you is still cool. And there's some people that don't have a mom and dad that'll do that. And I remember, Kevin, when we were in high school, we would take a group of at-risk youth to a camp called Hope Camp, where they just had an opportunity to go and experience stuff that you and I maybe take for granted. We may not do it all the time, but they never did that.
They were almost at risk at that camp.
It was not just at risk at home. They were at risk during the camp.
Yes, they were.
But it's the way God used that. There are kids that are there that got to experience stuff and learn things about God that never would have if it wasn't for the people running that camp and working in that camp. What are you going to do? Who are you going to serve? God or Baal? Are you going to serve Yahweh with the talents that you have, with the joys that you have? Or are you just going to serve the Baals, the gods of this world? Do you just want it to be all about you, or is it also about something else? Well, God told Elijah, I've got a plan. Get everybody together. And you know what? We'll just do a little God off here. We'll have a little competition, all right? God said, let's just do a competition. I mean, how great is that? I mean, we have competitions all the time. We played some bocce ball. We had some canoe races going on over here. There were some other competitions that the teenagers were doing last night with fire. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but it was something going on. And right, just burning stuff. That's it. And but we have competitions going on. God says, "Hey, let's have a real competition. Get everybody together." And so God calls all the preachers of Baal to come along, and Elijah shows up, and God says, "All right, my guys against your guys." So there was one Elijah, and there was like 900 of these other guys. I know we often say 400 prophets of Baal, but it was 400 prophets of Baal, and then like 450 prophets of this other guy, and Jezebel was with it. So it got both the men and the women, so it's like 900 to 1. All right, I like these kind of odds. These are great sports, all right? Here's the deal. Everybody pick up a stick and start hitting each other. Elijah would be in trouble. But this is what God said. God says, I'm going to make the rules. Let's read the rules, all right? God says, let's have the rules. Get everybody together. He says, we're going to do this. Then you'll call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. Oh, wait a minute. Up earlier. It says, if the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. Then the people said nothing. Then Elijah said to them, I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Get 2 bulls for us, and let them choose one for themselves, and let them cut it into pieces, and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. And I will prepare the other bull, and put it on the wood, and not set fire to it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I'll call on the name of Yahweh, and the God who answers by fire. He is God. Then all the people said, what you say is good. I don't think they said it just like that. That's just how they translate it. What you say is good. I'm like, they're probably like, oh yeah, bring it on. All right? Yeah, there's some hooting and hollering. That's what they meant to translate it as, bring it on. All right. So Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, choose one of the bulls for yourself, and you can go first. Since there are so many of you, call on the name of your God, but do not light the fire. So they took the bull given them, and they prepared it. So this is the competition. God said, here you go, Elijah, tell them to come out there. They can have a bull, you can have a bull, they can build an altar, you can build an altar, they cut it up, they do all the stuff. And then whatever you can do, short of actually lighting a fire, call on God and see whose sacrifice gets burned up first. So that's all you have to do. It's like a science thing, you know, where kids are told, here's your egg, you're going to throw it off the top of the church, and whichever one doesn't break, you win the science fair thing, whatever it is, off the top of the school. And so they're having a science fair project. There's yours, there's mine. Let's go. All right. Now, I was told every single day when I'm at school, you cannot teach using sarcasm. All right. I don't know who came up with that rule. It's the only tool I have. All right. It's the only thing I do well, and they take it away from me. That and beating kids with sticks, and I can't do that either. No sarcasm, no beating kids with sticks. I'm defenseless. Elijah is trying to teach the people of Israel with sarcasm. So if it's good for Elijah, it ought to be good for me, right, Kim? All right, Kim says I can use sarcasm. And she's a nationally board certified teacher, so she is qualified to authorize me to do that. I like Elijah. He's sarcastic. If you're not sarcastic, don't worry, somebody else will explain to you. All right. So, because he's not really rooting for them. He's rooting against them by rooting for them. Shh. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning until noon, all right? Morning time, and they got their stuff all set up, all right? It was like us trying to get the fire lit with those little fire starters. It just wasn't happening, all right? They're like, come on, Baal, bring it on, bring it on, blah, 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 all right? And they're yelling to him, and guess what's happening? Nothing, all right? Morning till noon, like, 5 hours of this. They're all little parts. Okay, come on, Baal. Morning till noon. Oh, Baal, answer us, they shouted. But there was no response. No one answered. And they danced around the altar they had made. At noon, Elijah began to help them. He said, shout louder. He said, yeah, their God might be a little deaf. He's like, surely he's a God. Maybe he's deep in thought or busy or traveling. Maybe he's sleeping and you got to wake him up. Wakey, wakey. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to wake them up. So Elijah's trying to help them. Hey, maybe he's sleeping. Throw something at him. Set off an alarm. Ring a bell or something. Maybe he's on vacation. Do you know where he is? Let's travel there and find him. And so Elijah's helping. He's a helper. That's what I like. You should be helpers too. So he's helping them by giving them good suggestions. So they shouted louder. See, they listened. They shouted louder. And they slashed themselves with swords. I don't know why that's happening. Sometimes when Ransom sleeps in, I never slash myself with swords to wake him up. But they slashed themselves with swords, and and with spears, as was their custom, until blood flowed and midday passed. They continued their frantic prophesying until the time for the evening sacrifice. So from morning all the way till evening, but there was no response. No one answered. No one paid attention. Elijah paid attention. He was trying to help them, and he was a helper. Then Elijah said to the people, come here. And they came to him. And he repaired the altar of the Lord, which was in ruins. And Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes descended from Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, your name shall be Israel. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, in the name of Yahweh. And he dug a trench around it, large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed, which is like, I don't know, it's probably about 15 quarts or something, so several gallons of area for water to pour in there. And he arranged the wood and cut the bull into pieces, and he laid it on the woods, and he said to them, fill 4 jars with water and pour it on the offering on the wood. If you've ever gone camping and you've had water poured on your wood, it's a booger to get it started. You got to use lighters and other stuff. I mean, it takes a while to get that going. So he said, pour water on it. And he said, do it again. And they did it again. He said, do it a 3rd time. See, this is Elijah like, hey, your God's had all day. It's been hot. You know, maybe if there was somebody with big glasses and they could do the Lord of the Flies thing and get it none of that stuff. You guys didn't get it working. Watch, my wood's wet. It's really wet. He said, the water ran down around the altar and even filled the trench. They had poured so much water on it that it filled the whole trench that was all around the bottom of the altar. At the time of sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, O Yahweh, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Yahweh, answer me, so these people will know that you, Yahweh, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. Then the fire of Yahweh fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and it licked up all of the water in the trenches. And when the people saw this, they fell prostrate on their face and cried, Yahweh, he is God. Yahweh, he is God. It's a great story. My whole life, I always wanted to do that. I was like, well, God, why can't we just do that today? You know, just set up a couple of fires. Let's get this baby going on national TV. We can do it on like a reality show. Whose God is God? And, you know, set it up and just go head to head. I don't think God does that kind of stuff today. You know, for the public, for the whole world to see. God says, I want you to trust me by faith. I want my people to go out in the world. But God did do it once. God did say, you want to put me to the test? All right, put me to the test. Whatever you want to do, whatever you can do, do it. Get that thing started. Nothing. Elijah douses his with water and prays one prayer to God. God, show these people that you are God. And everything was gone. God licked up every last bit of it. That's the prayer we ought to be praying today. God, in my life, show these people that you are God. And you know what, if you're a camper, or you're a reader, or you're a guy that likes old classic TV shows, or playing games, or video games, if your prayer every morning is, God, show these people that you are God, God will look at you one day and say, all right, I'm calling I want you to be the one standing next to the fire. I want you to be the one shouting out my name. The problem is, the world is looking for a purpose. I mean, everybody wants to be a part of something cool. And so they're going to go join clubs. They're going to be part of teams, and they're going to go do lots of different things. They're going to dress in fashions and go to concerts, and they want to be a part of something cool. The problem is, God's people have to verbalize, choose that or choose God. And if we don't ever choose to verbalize, I want you to follow God, they won't know that they need to follow God. But Elijah called out to God, God, help people follow you because of this today. And we should cheer out, God, help people follow you because of us today. And we call out God's name to their face where they are. We want God to be glorified in me, and through you. Call out the name of God. People will be saved. This summer we got a lot of stuff going on. We got camp coming up. All right, if you don't have your camp forms and stuff, make sure you get some of those. We'll print some more up, so just let us know if you need one. We got camp coming up. We're going to be doing some disaster relief coming up right after camp. I know we got to work schedules out, and everybody may not be able to do it every time, but we're going to try to do 3 or 4 different disaster relief trips so that everybody that wants to be a part of it can help and be a part of it. We've got other fun activities coming, but the great thing about fun activities, when we go do the rock climbing, we go do the game days, we go do all the other stuff, invite your friends, they'll come. Especially invite your friends that don't have a place where they can worship God. Those of you, I know a lot of you that have come with your friends today, you've got a place where you worship God regularly, that's great. If you don't, we want you to come worship with us, but especially invite your friends that don't have a place where they can worship God. And let's do everything we can do. I'm so appreciative of Coy and Jennifer because this is a passion on their heart. They say, we love doing this. We want to do it. We want to take the teenager to go with it. What's the passion on your heart? What is the thing that God's telling you, I love you doing this? I love to be a part of this, and God wants to use it to encourage people, to build fellowship, to build ministry, to build relationship. Whatever that is, we need to be saying, choose today who you serve. Is it Yahweh or is it Baal? Let's choose Yahweh today. Would you all pray with me? Our Heavenly